Why did I graduate in high school without knowing how to swim? It is diabolical. Can bet your ass I will not be reading the book. The nature is naturing and it's not working for me. I'm dropping the book like a hot potato. Fall into it, I am dead. Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Mimi, and today we are doing a long overdue tag called It Isn't That Bad book tag. Now, I was actually originally tagged by Brooklyn at Brooklyn's Library, and then later on from Lauren at Love Lauren. So very overdue, but here I am. I'm cranking through all my tags. Hopefully I get through all of them in the next month or so. Fingers crossed. Last time I said this, I did not do it, but here's to hoping that it is more successful this time around. Also, I apologize for the changing lighting every now and then. I am trying to film during the daytime a little bit more, hence I'm using my natural sunlight. And as a result, I didn't realize that the sun can be so finicky and the light changes so rapidly. So I have to say I have filmed this tag multiple times already, and I was just so frustrated because it got really dark and then it got really light. So I'm hoping today the setup that I have will work. The setup meaning I'm going to be more aware as to when the light is passing through, when a cloud is blocking some of the light, and fix my setup from there. But why do I always do this? I'm just yapping about some nonsense. Anyways, I would also like to thank Melinda at A Web Story for creating this tag. I am really excited to answer all these questions. Again, remember, this is a judgment-free zone. This is mainly for me, not so much for you, because I feel like I do some unhinged behavior and I might get judged for it. So judgment-free zone. I'm just gonna leave it there. And let's crank into the very first question. Okay, sorry. So one more thing to note, that when I am answering all of these questions, I am under the assumption that these are my books. I own these books and I get to do what I want to them. All right. And you should also live your life the way you want to as well if you own those books. In no way, shape, or form will I do these to library books, because I like to treat my library with a lot of respect. So if I get a book, I try to keep it in that condition as best as possible. So just a little bit of a preface, some of the things I do might be a little bit unhinged, but you'll never get a copy of them unless I personally lend it to you. All right, cool. Great. And the very first question is, do I dog ear my books? I am someone who will literally use anything as a bookmark, but I don't like bending things. Period. I don't like a bent credit card. I don't like a bent piece of paper. Like, it has to be, even when I fold, like this is my little note for this video, even when I fold it, it has to be, I don't know if you guys can see, it has to be like very straight. So dog earing my book is an absolute no. It is diabolical, okay? And what I mean by that is that if you dog ear your book, first of all, if you do a reread, how will you know where you're at? Like, you dog ear it, and I know you can unfold it, but sometimes it gets folded back into it, right? And then when you do a revision, a reread, you just end up with so many bent marks that the front of the book, the corner of the book just gets so bulky from the bent that, you know, it's just diabolical. Like, why would you do that? I'm not saying I need my books to be perfect shape, but just something about just how uniform that bent is will drive me mad, even though I literally just said that this needs to be uniformly folded. If it happens on multiple pages at the same place, it'll bump up that corner of the book, and because it's bumped up in that corner of the book, it doesn't give it a used feeling. I don't know how else to describe it. Like, yes, it's used and people are using it to read it, but it doesn't click and work in the way my mind wanted to work. So absolutely not. I will never dog ear my book. Will I use a fork as a placeholder for my book? Yes. But will I dog ear it? No. No, no, no. Question number 2, do you annotate your books? Yeah, I want to be an annotation girly so freaking bad. I want to write stuff on the sides. I want to write stuff in the book so that when I go back and reread it, I know what I was thinking about the time, or maybe some of the prediction at the time. But the reason why I'm not a full-blown annotation girly, even though I have stationery on stacks on stacks on stacks of them, is because I'm an audiobook girly and a Kindle girly. That's really the only thing that's stopping me from fully embracing that annotationness of me. All right. As you guys know, I really love to read on my Kindle because I like the convenience of it. I could just carry it around with me anywhere on long road trips or just walking around at the supermarket or when I'm just out and about at a coffee shop. I think it's a lot easier to carry around than, let's say, a ginormous book. I just don't like having a lot of things to carry. And I just think the Kindle is slim, compact, and easy to carry around versus a book. And when I'm bored of, let's say, I'm bored of reading this book, I could just easily skip onto the next book in my library queue or just read the next book that I have on my Kindle. And I really like being able to have option and choices. So it's really hard for me to want to read physical books. I do own them and I'm trying to get into reading a lot of them, but I have to be honest, in the last video that I said, I got through a lot of the books on my shelf, but if I have to be honest with you guys, I got some of them as Libby loans via audio. So I did end up reading about half of them via audio instead. So it's a little bit of a cheating, but that's not an answer to this question. I'm struggling. What was the question again? The question is, do I annotate? And I want to say I did previously, but I also found out that while annotating, if I end up not really enjoying the book afterwards, it makes it hard for me to give the book away, such as putting it in a free little library or just donating it, because then it'll have my thoughts and writings all over the book. However, I did find a way to circumvent this a little bit, and I have started doing it in a couple of books, not all of them, but a couple of them, where I buy transparent sticky notes and I write stuff on it and annotate that way instead. And it's been working out pretty good. So I'm glad I could find a happy medium for me to write in the book without actually marking up the book fully. And I could just always peel away the sticky notes if I wanted to and keep it in a little scrapbook for future references if I end up donating the book or giving it away. So a very long-winded answer to say yes and no. I want to annotate, but I don't always annotate. The struggle when I'm in the middle of talking and the sun just gets blocked by a cloud and there's been a pesky cloud. There's been a pesky cloud that is just going in and out and in and out, and I am so frustrated. If anybody knows anything about lighting, help a girl out.
A few moments later.
Like, this is what I mean. Now the sun comes back out. I have to fix my camera setting, and I am so frustrated. So frustrated. Disgustingly frustrated. And I'm just... I just am so sick and tired of this cloud. Like, this cloud... Like, if I could fight a cloud, y'all, if I could fight a cloud, I would. I'm trying to do my best not to fight the sun, but so moving right along to question number 3, it asks if I roll my book cover and or break the spine while I'm reading it, and the answer to this one is yes. Yes, I do break the spine. Yes, I do roll the book cover, and it's a really bad habit of mine, but it's just so easy to read a book with a rolled up book cover. Like, the way you hold it, it's just like a little handle. I do know that it ends up warping the cover and the structure of the book itself, but to me, it feels like it's a read book, so I don't mind it too much. And for all intent and purposes, when you put heavier books on top of it, it will ultimately just flatten out, especially if I'm the only one reading it. My one time of bending the book cover isn't really going to impact it too much. However, I do have a habit of doing it, which I have to be extremely mindful when I receive a library loan, especially in a paperback, to not end up bending the book covers. But other than that, I don't really think about breaking the spine. I don't really break any of my book's spine as far as I know. It's not that I go out of my way to not break the book's spine and also break it. It just so happens that the way I read my books don't break the spine, mostly because if I have a physical version of the book, sometimes I also get the digital version either through Libby or Hoopla or other services that my library offers. I love my Kindle because of the portability aspect of it, so it might just not have a cracked spine because I don't actually read that much from the book itself. But either way of this question, it got me thinking, do your books break on the first read, or is it something that happens as you kind of go through the book multiple times? I think that only really happens when a book is read multiple times, and when that happens, it means the book is loved. So I don't really see it as a negative, but I do know that some people love seeing the fresh out of the box mint condition, and I also don't judge that at all. I think that's also another way to showcase your love for a book by treating it well. Moving on to question number 4, it asks, do I listen to something while I read? And it is a hard, absolutely not for me because of how the way I read and how my mind works. And I realized that actually not everyone's mind is like this. So when I read, I actually have a narrator in my head and they're reading the words out loud to me. So I hear my own voice and I hear it reading the words out loud. So it's very similar to an audiobook, which is probably why I enjoy listening to audiobooks so much because it's mimicking and it's exactly the same way as if I were to consume it visually because I hear the words. And when it comes to imagination, I realize I'm not one of the people who could imagine the grand scope and the grand schemes of things at all whatsoever. So usually when I read, it's the words that flow into my mind and then I hear the words and I just have vague glimpses of things that are happening in the scenarios, but I don't actually see the full fleshed out map and I don't ever think I can visually like envision a full field of vision at any given moment when I read. So I absolutely cannot listen to something while I read because the music and me reading would conflict with each other and it wouldn't work at all. So let me know how you guys read. Like how when you read, do you hear a voice? Can you imagine and visualize everything that's on the page? Or do you guys just get glimpses? I know that it has to do with how your brain processes information, and I thought it was really cool. I was talking to my friends about this, which is listening to audiobook reading. And my stance on it is 100% yes. And this is my experience because my experience in reading the book and listening to an audiobook is one to one, except for the fact that when I'm listening to an audiobook, I can do other things. Whereas when I'm reading, I am taking the physical form of it. I have to sit down and I have to physically read with my eyes instead of just listening it. So the reading with eyes just kind of transform it into the sound cues in my head. It's just an interesting observation that I have experienced. And let me know in the comment section, are you guys the same? Are you guys different? How do you guys experience reading? Because I'm definitely not someone who's able to fully envision everything in the world at all whatsoever. I definitely have to look at fan art sometimes to help me envision and really precisely think about what the characterization is like because my mind just can't piece together every single detail on a page at all at every given time. So I don't know what that says about me, but let's move on to the next question. Moving on to question 5, it is a spicy one. It is, do you read in the bathroom? Considering what question number 6 is, when they ask you, do you read in the bathroom? They mean, do you read in the bathroom? I do. I do. I know. I know. Some people might think it's disgusting, and I can totally see your opinion on that. I understand your opinion, but I have gone into such a bad habit when I was a kid because it's my own personal private space. And I think that habit has kept with me throughout adulthood and whatnot. And is it healthy? I actually don't think so. I don't think it's actually healthy. Is it also disgusting? Yes, I can also see the perspective of it being disgusting, but as someone with a Kindle and a cabinet, you just throw the Kindle into the cabinet, do your business, finish whatever you were doing, and then you take it out when you're done. That's all I'm gonna tell you guys. Yeah, I understand that it's disgusting, but I have just been in the habit of it since I was a child, and now it is what it is. I just when I need to do my business, I throw it into the cabinet, close it. It stays moderately clean in there, I hope, because that's also where I put my towels. And then do my thing, take it out, leave the bathroom. TMI? Maybe, but that's the whole point of this tag, right? Right? Otherwise, why would they put this question in the tag? Moving right along to question number 6, the adjacent question to the previous, which asks, do I read near bodies of water, such as the pool or the bathtub? I don't know how to swim. I don't know how to swim, so I am voluntarily never near a body of water, like the pool or the beach or anything like that, because I will literally drown because I don't know how to swim, yeah. Did we need to have a requirement to know how to swim in California in high school? Yes. Why did I graduate in high school without knowing how to swim? I don't know. I don't know, but I graduated, okay? Y'all, I even have a bachelor's degree already, okay? So I have nothing else to say, except for the fact that I don't know how to swim. So I voluntarily am never near a large body of water because I know if I fall into it, I am dead. Which is also why whenever we do the tag and there's like, you're stuck on a deserted island, I'm assuming it's deserted because it's surrounded by a body of water. I already know from the initial setup of the question and the area I'm at, I am dead. I am a goner, all right? I have no survivability instinct or skill. So no, I don't read near bodies of water. The water damage my book may receive is probably from any of the drinks that I drink. So my boba, my coffee, or my water. That's probably where I would get most of my water damaged book from. Question 7 is a quick and easy one. Do I DNF? Yes. And I have gotten a little bit better about DNFing this year with already a book DNF'd so far from a recently supposed to be an autobuy author, but now she's no longer autobuy because I had to DNF this book. So yes, I DNF, gotten better at it. Hopefully I continue to stay good at it. Question 8 asks, do I ever read ahead or skip to the end of the book? Yes, 1000%, absolutely I will. If I need to motivate myself to continue reading the book, or if I'm finding a lack of interest, sometimes I'll flip to the back of the book or the next paragraph or the next couple of chapters, read about a paragraph or two to see if there's anything to entice me to stay in the book, and then I make my decision from there. I don't think it impacts my reading 100%. I'm not someone who gets impacted by spoilers because sometimes I enjoy the experience of reading and how the author put the pieces together as much as the conclusion and the ending of it. And then sometimes I'm just someone who wants to root for my love interest. I need to read ahead to make sure my love interests are the correct ones, because if they're not the correct ones, if they're not the ones I'm rooting for, you can bet your ass I will not be reading the book. If I find out that my second male lead is not going to be the main male lead, I'm dropping the book. I'm dropping the book like a hot potato. That's all there is to it. And I also really like knowing what's going to happen in the book, especially if it's currently ongoing. This mainly has to do with translated works and also mangas and manhwas that were adapted from light novels. I really sometimes I catch up to where it's currently at in the adaptation, and then I'm just like, I need more. I need more. I need to know what happens. And as a result, I read up on the spoilers, I read up on what's going to happen, and it gets me hyped up and continuing on to read. This case is very prevalent in The Broken Ring. I have actually known about the whole plot and how everything will somewhat play out, but I don't know exactly the execution of it. But I'm always still really hyped and happy to read the book whenever the adaptation chapter comes out. So again, doesn't really impact me. That's what works for me. So I'm going to keep doing it. Question number 9 asks, am I book polyamorous? AKA, do I read more than one book at a time? Yes. I think this is especially even easier now that I read on multiple different platforms and formats. So I can really separate out the books that I'm reading. A good example is that when I'm reading an audiobook, because it has a distinct narrator's voice, I can really separate that book and the plotline of that book with its own. And then when I'm physically reading the book, it's kind of the same thing. And then when I'm reading it on a Kindle. And then of course we have mangas and manhwas, which I think is a completely different format of its own with a completely different way of storytelling. So I do dabble in all 4 different formats at a singular given time, but I will almost never double dip in the same format. So I never listen to 2 separate books via audiobook. I will never read 2 separate books via Kindle, and likewise as physical, but I will always do them parallelly with each other. However, I will have to say, recently I've been enjoying doing the same book in 2 different formats. So I've been physically reading my book and listening to the audiobook, or reading it on my Kindle and listening to the audiobook a lot. I have really been enjoying that dual format because it allows me to get through the book just a little bit faster. But I do think that me reading cross formats is actually the fastest way to get through as many books as possible. But I'm not really trying to make reading a competition. It's mainly for my own enjoyment and what I want to do. So I've just been doing what works for me. And what currently works for me is the 2 types of format: audio, physical, or audio and digital. So that's what I've been doing. However, the only format that I can safely say that I can juggle multiple different stories at a given time is my mangas and manhwa category, simply because of the graphic nature of it. You can actually visually see the characters. So because of that, it's easier for me to distinguish. I can differentiate the storyline that way instead. So at any given moment, I could be reading up to 10 different graphic novel, mangas, manhwa, webcomic at a given time. Does it get hectic? Just a little bit, just a tiny bit, but I manage. But I don't think I have read many mangas and manhwas as of recently. So that's a little bit of a teaser on my monthly wrap up. And let's move on to question number 10. It asks, do I own more books than my actual shelf space? I'm happy to say that no. As you guys can see, I still have a lot of room on my shelf. In addition to this, I have like a whole extra space over here. I have one more fairly empty shelf at the top and a very empty shelf at the bottom. I have a lot of shelf space and not that many books since I am a Kindle girly. However, I am going to try to curate my physical library a little bit more by buying books that are 4.5 stars or higher, or books that I am really invested in, books that I am really enjoying in some way or another, such as a book that really got my brain working a little bit. I'm definitely going to try to curate my library a little bit more. And of course, we have the stack of books over here that I have not finished, but it will eventually make its way over to the bookshelf. I'm not sure when I will fully fill it out and what will happen to it. Right now, I'm just organizing it by author's last name, and then we have a set of books that I enjoy here. We have a set of Ali Hazelwood's books over here that I really enjoy, and then of course we have the copy of my favorite manhwa, The Broken Ring. So it's kind of sparse right now. We don't have that many books, and I still have a little bit of a space over here to build another bookshelf if I want to. So I'm pretty hopeful that I'm not going to overcrowd my bookshelf. But I think that about wraps up this It Isn't That Bad tag. Honestly, I don't think I did that bad. I'm aside from the one thing that might be a little bit off-putting, I think I'm fairly normal in a very vague term of normal. But actually, I think there's one extra bonus question, which is, have I ever taken a book from the free little library without putting anything in it? Yes. Yes. I'm personally one of those people who don't think you necessarily need to do it right away at the moment, but just keep in mind to give back to your community once you finish that book, or if you have another book laying around. But if you feel a little bit awkward about taking a book without putting anything back right away at that moment, keep a book or two that you personally would be giving away in the car, so that when you happen to stumble upon a free little library with something that you want, you can just swap out those two books. That's my little tidbit. That's my little advice that I can give to you guys for this. And I think we are finished with this tag video. Hopefully it isn't too long. I'm hoping that it's a quick one, even though it feels like hours and hours with the lighting change. But that's on me to edit, and you guys can just enjoy me stressing out about wanting to fight the sun or the cloud or whatever is happening outside of my house right now. And I'm gonna wrap this up. Now I'm just going to quickly tag some of my fellow booktubers to do this tag. Of course, if you want to do this tag, as always, feel free to do it and let me know down in the comment section or tag me in it so I can watch your videos. But the first person I'm going to be tagging is going to be Bonnie at Bonnie Nicole's Right, and then Chelsea at Libraries and Lattes, and then finally is going to be Sully at Sully is Reading. And that is it for this video. Thank you for sticking around with me as I struggle to deal with the ever-changing lighting situation that is currently going on. And if you guys enjoy this video and want to stick around for some more of my bookish perspective, definitely make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys next time in another video. Bye!